What's the first thing you can remember?
Holy good Lord. My first memory is a dream I had. Yeah. I was a superhero dream called Star Child. I remember it. And that's whenever the, what do you call it, came out, that movie, Guardians of the Galaxy, and he was called Star-Lord.
Did it freak you out?
It freaked me out because it was also his childhood. The movie starts off with his child. He's being taken away from his home planet and into a complete fantasy world of, you know, other galaxies and flying around in space. And that was like, whoa, that really hits a point with me. But for me, it was a trauma dream because there were bad men trying to get me and I could fly away. At the start of the dream, I could fly, and by the end of the dream, I couldn't fly anymore, and they got me.
Interesting.
So it was a horrible kind of thing. And I don't think I've ever been able to fly in my dreams, apart from that one moment where I had the freedom.
Since then?
Since then, yeah. I've never been able to fly again. I've always had dreams of I could fly and now I can't, or I can't quite get off the ground, or, you know, limited kind of stuff. Dig that one around in the psychological box.
Yeah, well, I just kind of have a sense of hope for you that that dream will come back again.
I hope so.
Yeah. Tell me about the moon and your mum.
Where are you getting this information? Did I tell you this? That's really like, wow. Yeah, I said to my mum, I was holding her hand. Oh, I have discussed this with you, I think. I said to my mum when I was very young, I must have been like 6 or 7 or something like that, holding her hand at night, walking down a road towards our house, I think it was. And I just looked at the moon and said, because I loved the moon at night. I loved the luminance of it. And just, yeah, I just said, someday I'm going to go there, Mum. And she went, I know, son. And it was just like as a parent now, that impact that it had on me with hope and dreams was just, it was huge. You know, if it had been my dad, it might have been maybe, you know, shut up, Sai. Sorry, Dad. It might have been just, you know, what are you talking about? Because I know my dad didn't quite get me as a kid. But for her response to be immediate like that of just, I know you are, son, you know, that's huge.
That's massive.
Yeah.
Why do you think the uniform of young boys is superhero costumes?
Superhero costumes, that's a huge discussion.
Like, why do you think? Because I was the same. Like, for me, it was Spider-Man.
Yeah. Spider-Man, yeah.
Spider-Man was just me all over.
Yeah.
Like,
and why Spider-Man for you?
Because I was real nerdy, real scrawny, wore glasses, had like a big like transformation moment whenever I like started wearing contact lenses. Yeah. That was my spider bite moment. Do you know what I mean?
Your spider bite to swap the contacts.
Yeah.
I am now superhuman.
I'm now like Peter Parker has now transitioned into Spider-Man.
Very interesting. Well, I was scared of heights and spiders and being alone. And Spider-Man had mastered all 3 of those, I think. So I remember thinking that one day when I was older, going, that's maybe why I liked him. The ultimate freedom, but then also being able to help people who were in danger. Superhero. I think John Eldridge talks about this, doesn't he, in his book about superheroes? And I've completely forgot it was, what he was saying about it. But I think it's that idea of we are on every heart of, I guess from every heart of the child is that lack of limitation and imagination, but also the idea that we want to rescue, we want to save, we want to be saviors, we want to put our best foot forward, possibly.
You have a son, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
He's 6.
Why do little boys love to feel dangerous?
I think that is wired into us. I think we need that sense of adventure and danger. I think the idea that, because remember John saying if you want a boy to do any chores or anything interesting that you want them to do, add a hit of danger into it, and then, like, you know, do the vacuuming by 1 foot, or, you know, holding a glass of water at the same time. I think that is the case. We just are drawn towards danger, and I know I don't want to blanket every single guy in the world that way, but I think that's, excuse me, I think that's our default setting. But I think nature and nurture can maybe change those in some ways, because there are, There are some guys you meet who are just masculine, and there are some guys you meet who are not as masculine. So I would need to actually interview them and ask them, what do you feel you want to rescue people? Did you want to be a superhero when you were a kid, or what did you want to be?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't want to blanket everybody with that, but I think that is definitely my nature, and it sounds like it's yours.
Well, tell me about your boyhood. What do we need to know about Sai the boy?
Nervous now. I had a rough childhood. There's a lot of things that I don't want to incriminate people in my life as well.
Yeah, of course.
But I had there's a lot of abuse in my childhood, so there was a lot of wanting to escape. And I'm so jealous of you when you say, I got to get out of here, and you were able to at 18, because I really wanted to get out of here, but I couldn't.
Yeah.
I was terrified to leave, which is really funny because it was not a nice environment to grow up in.
Sure.
So what I hear of other people who have left the country for a year and gone to another country and broken a whole lot of stuff. Yeah. I never did that. I never actually got to do lots of your friends did a year out somewhere when they were before university, and I never did it. I think I was maybe scared to leave my mom alone as well.
Yeah, I get that too.
My little sister alone, but yeah, I'm okay where I'm at now. I'm looking back in life and going, it's okay that I didn't. But I remember feeling like I wasted, like just lost my 20s.
Yeah.
In a big mire of muck in my brain. But I felt like it's okay. It's the 30s that were really gonna make a difference. So yeah, that's a tough question.
It is a tough question.
Yeah, because I also don't want to overshare too much. I have a habit of sharing too much, but yeah, a lot of my childhood was trying to find ways to escape in my brain because I couldn't physically get away.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of fantasy, a lot of imagination. At the age of 11, was it 11, 10, 11, I found Warhammer.
Oh,
Have you heard of Warhammer?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
And that is just an encyclopedias of fantasy and escapism.
Yeah.
Like apparently it's quite high up on like kids who have autism and things like that, they absolutely love it because of the depth that it goes into with characters and lore and rules and things like that. I never really got to play the game much, but I was really just blown away by the characters and the species and the galaxy. I mean, if you take something in your brain, right, and you fast forward a couple of years, and you can kind of guess bits and pieces, but if you take something and fast forward it to the year 40,000, you're like, are we not just like gas clouds at that point? How does that look, you know? And the guys who invented it, like they really come up with something special, I think. I know it's got its negative connotations and everything else, but I just really loved escaping to that. So movies, I remember watching Indiana Jones and just feeling like I want to jump into the TV. I want to be there while they're making that film. I want to be there in that enclosed, encapsulated cube rectangle that is our television, that there's nothing outside those walls. I want to be in that moment.
Yeah.
And that was and I remember actually there's a movie that Simon Pegg did called was it How to Lose Friends and Alienate People or something like that, where he describes that to a T, and it's him and his childhood and his as a child watching movies, watching Hollywood, and he explains it so well that I never could, of just that magical thing that was Hollywood, that was this other world. And then, of course, you get there and it's not what you think it is, you know. But what is that film called? We'll look it up.
There's a lot of control as well, like because the screen's very self-contained.
Yes.
The set's self-contained.
Yes.
The universe is self-contained.
Yeah.
You know, it follows a story arc. It follows a hero's journey, so that you know, even when it gets really, 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 really bad, this is just part of it. Just wait. We all know the hero's going to pull through.
Yeah.
Whereas real life can be a little bit more complicated than that.
There's a lack of resolution in real life half the time. And I mean that in two ways. Resolution is in clarity, but resolution is in to resolve things.
Yeah.
In a movie like Indiana Jones, everything works out in the end.
Yeah.
You know?
No loose ends.
If you look at it, there's a lot of people die in it. There's a lot of good people kind of get lost in it, but it is painted as a resolution at the end, and it's all good. I remember watching the end of number 3 and just wishing for more. Like the way they ride off into the sunset at the end, smiling, father and son, you know, I remember just wishing for more and just thinking, I just love how it stops there, that I want more. And then the fourth one comes out years later, and it's like, maybe you should have made that right after the third. But the thing is, if they made the fourth one right after the third one, it might have actually been okay. It might have worked.
Yeah.
But I think by the time the fourth one came out, we've kind of done aliens and Aztecs and Mayans, and we've kind of done it to death. So it wasn't as fresh, even though it was. But I got to say, I still like the movie.
Yeah.
I'm still one of those weirdos who like that movie.
I get it, man.
Yeah.
Is there a weird question for you? Is this one I'm trying out? I've been thinking about it recently. What is the safest you've ever felt?
Holy good Lord.
Or when is the safest? What's the safest moment of your life? There you go. It's probably the best.
That's a tough one.
Best way to put it.
The safest moment of my life.
I'll give you a bit of context and a bit of thinking time. There's a guy called Stephen. I'm gonna say his name's Borges, something like that. He's a trauma guy.
Yes.
And his big thing is,
I think my wife has mentioned that name.
if you want to change the world, start by making people feel safe.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think becoming a father has really started to drill that into my head, where if you can make your kid feel safe, that's 90% of it.
Yeah,
that's good. And so I was, I've been asking a couple of close friends and myself, what are moments in my life where I have felt really safe?
That's really good. So contained is a word my wife would use a lot. Like, who makes you feel contained? When have you felt contained? That's, I hope I got that right, son. Honey. Sorry. Yeah. I think my mom was really good at containing me, because I remember a lot of dreams I had when I was, and they say this is an ADHD thing, but my wife is actually kind of going, I don't know if you have ADHD. I think it's trauma is more the thing than ADHD.
Sure.
But they say that being aware of mortality at a young age is not the norm. Like, so my son started asking questions at 6 about death. So I think a natural interest is fine. But I remember I used to really stress out at nights when my mom was saying goodnight to me. I would have anxiety attacks, and I guess you would call it now, where I would just be really, really upset, saying, "Mom, if you die, you can't die. Like, you can't die. If you die, I'm in trouble. I'm going to be dead too." So Mom was a safe space for me in a really tempestuous childhood.
Yeah.
So I remember that feeling of her containing me these nights and drilling this promise into me that, she talked about this person called God, I didn't really know about, and who said, "You've got to trust that God is never going to take me until you're ready." And I've actually found that my wife has started saying that to my son now, because he's had a few questions like, "Mommy, I don't want you and Daddy to die." And it's like, oh my goodness, you're 6. Have we traumatized you that much already? and I'm laughing. But no, he's well grounded. But that's when I felt sick. And I remember getting these images that popped into my head of Star Child again when I was older. And it was just me as a toddler in a fetal position floating amongst the stars. And that was a very peaceful image to me. For some reason, it just brought me this safe feeling and this peace. And maybe it was, you could say it's God talking to you at the time, kind of just giving you peace. I don't know. But those are 2 safe spaces. And And I'm sure there have been moments where I have been like out playing in the trees in the forest and kind of felt, I remember a couple of times of being around certain trees and just kind of going, I don't want to move right now. And I don't know what it was. You can call it what you want, but I just remember thinking, I feel really safe right now. So there have been moments in my life in nature, and there are moments with certain people and moments in fantasy where I have felt contained and safe.
Yeah.
If that's an answer for you.
Yeah. Okay, so boyhood was boyhood. You then kind of move into your teenage years.
Oh dear.
Tell me about a time where you felt dangerous.
In what way?
And what I mean
to
by
other people or myself?
What I mean by that is, so when you're a kid and you grow up in a traumatic environment, and when you're a kid in general, so much feels outside of your control. And then there's this moment, and it comes at different stages for different people, where you start to feel like, I have a bit of control here. You know, you maybe start getting physically stronger. You're maybe able to have a little bit of independence. You realize like you can make choices for yourself. How did the boy turn into a cowboy, I guess is what I'm asking.
Into a cowboy. Oh, you're going through the stages, aren't you? Cowboy stage. I think, to be honest, the first time I stood up to my dad was a change, a real shift in our environment at home, and a change in... and it's funny, looking back on it and feeling a bit of shame as well about it. Of standing up to my dad, because he's the father figure in the house, but it was a really powerful and strong moment because it had to happen. It was just one of those times where he used to kind of go, right, you know, sit down kind of thing whenever you were in trouble, and he would stand over you, and you know, and there was one time he just said sit down. I went no, and it was like I dropped a bomb in the house. It was well, you know,
we don't do that here.
We don't do that here. And everyone looking at me going like, what? Because we were kind of, it was like a Stockholm kind of a syndrome where, you ever see that analogy of it is an elephant tied to a tree, is a very young elephant with string. No, sorry, a big chain. It's tied with a big chain and a huge ring around its leg to a tree. And as it gets older, the chain turns into, you know, less strong. It's maybe turned into wire, and then it's turned into rope. But the elephant still thinks I'm chained to the tree. Doesn't realize it's big and strong now and can snap the rope easily and get away. That kind of feeling for us was definitely the case. And then so for me to kind of suddenly stand up and go, no, I don't want to sit down anymore. And of course, you know, it was fireworks went off at that point. How dare you stand up to me and all this stuff? And it was just, you know, I'm not actually doing it. I'm actually just not sitting down. And I stayed calm instead of triggered for once. And it was like, okay. And that was a huge shift. Yeah. That's when the trouble really kind of started with my dad, because I was becoming a man at that point, I think. And he didn't know how to live with other men in the house because he was the boss. Yeah. But I think that was a poignant moment when I felt danger. I wouldn't have called it dangerous. I would have called it defensive for the first time. I was able to protect myself and other people around me for the first time. Because I started standing up to him more for other people as well in the house, I remember. From mum and stuff like that, yeah.
You've got one of those accents.
What do you call this accent?
I call it a citizen of the world.
A citizen of the world? A world citizen.
And I definitely, I've been there. Like, I'm a bit of a chameleon. Like,
did you shift into American?
I shift big time, yeah. I even shift. I've noticed who I even have on the podcast. Yes. I'll notice I'll shift. Like, if I have someone who's like real Belfast, all of a sudden I'll be like talking real Belfast, and I'm like, I never even lived in Belfast. What am I doing? So where was the stage for all the stories you've shared?
Mom would call this. She called this a musical ear.
Okay.
That's what she always called this. You got a musical ear, you pick up accents. Now, this is my default accent, but if I talk to somebody who has a stronger accent, like a really staunch Belfast, I will move into that, no problem. I remember trying to do a South African accent for years. I couldn't get it. And then I went there in 2005, and I couldn't lose it. I was like really pleased, but half the time I'm thinking, I'm not taking the piss. I'm not trying to copy you. I can't help this. So if I go to the States, it doesn't take long for it to shift fully American. But it's strong. I think it might come from me. It might come from a desire to want to communicate fully. Like, I want to be heard. Like, I know when I talk more Northern Irish is because I'm sick of repeating myself. Because people will say, what? And I just go, oh, just how?
And that was me with garbage and trash and candy and sidewalk.
But they're nice words. I like those words. I like saying garbage. It's better than rubbish.
Or the bin. We talk about the bin man coming. The bin man came today.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bin man's a bit weird, isn't it?
Bin man.
It's very Belfast.
Trash collector.
Yeah, trash collector. You know, better than the garbage man though. No one wants to be a garbage man.
No, it's like he's made of garbage. Yeah, it doesn't work. Yeah.
Yes. So where was home for you?
Well, see, that's the thing, because growing up in Germany and England and places like that, I didn't have. Like, we were moving so much that it was hard to kind of put down roots at all. So I'm not patriotic in any way. I've been moving so much. Home is basically now just when you feel safe and contained. When you feel it's people. When I'm around certain people. So my family is my home. You know, my kids, my wife are my home. My mom is my home. You know, that's my home. A place. I think it just doesn't make much sense to me logically to get annoyed about a piece of soil whenever you've lived there for 50 years just because you've been living there 10 years longer than somebody else and it's your home. But yet, hence before that, 10 years hence before that, you were fresh to it as well. And you took that from somebody else.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, none of us are from here, right?
Yeah.
Go back far enough. I mean, I think mum's side is French Huguenots. Dad's is Russian Jew somewhere. So it's like, well, then, and they're from Belfast and Hollywood.
Yeah.
So they're from here,
Yeah.
They were born here. But yeah, it's go back far enough. We're not from anyone from here.
It's true.
It's kind of silly.
I say this with hesitation. We can swerve this. I really wanted to ask you, I even wrote it down. What is it about the sons of pastors, the sons of missionaries, and the sons of people in the military that gives them a reputation? That was very sensitively put, wasn't it?
That was very, but what do you mean by reputation?
So, you hear about, like, I've heard of people say, like, pastors' kids, PKs.
Yeah.
And it's like they've got this thing, it's like they've got this baggage, or like missionary brats.
Yeah.
I remember sharing a tent with a guy in Nepal, and he was saying, like, he was telling the story about his life, and then he just went, well, what do you expect from a missionary kid? And I was like, whoa.
That's a thing. Okay.
And then obviously
right.
I've heard about military brat and all this sort of stuff.
Pad brats, yep.
Pad brats.
Pad brats, yeah.
What's going on there?
Well, what have you seen behaviorally? You're talking about behavior? You're talking about life decisions?
So
what are you talking about?
I give you like what I know. So, for example, okay, yeah, here's a good one. The sons and daughters of pastors often completely leave the faith.
Yes. Yeah, that's the one I've heard of, yeah.
Yeah. I know that there can be a lot of like rebellion.
Yeah.
I know that in the military context, because you're often exposed to a lot of authoritarianism, there can be like a real like rebellion against authority.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I hear you.
And interestingly, I don't know if this will help lead your answer, but there was a study done from a group called Barna. It's like a Christian think tank. And they did somehow this mad research into pastors' kids. And the number one reason why pastors' kids walk away from the faith. Well, why do you think it is?
My first gut reaction would be pressure.
Yeah.
Having to live up to that.
Yeah.
'Cause, it's not just about becoming a Christian. It's about becoming a leader of Christians.
Absolutely.
And that would be a huge. Is that close?
And the high standard, it's like,
Yeah.
you better not drink, you better not smoke. Like, if I catch you fooling around with a
Oh,
girl,
yes.
like, da-da-da. Right, so that's what I
Yeah.
thought that too. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's easy.
Yeah.
Do you know what it is? Hypocrisy.
Oh, witnessing it from. Oh, of course it would be, wouldn't it?
Isn't that mad?
That's really sad.
It's really sad. It's the difference between the two standards of external and internal. When I read that, I nearly cried.
That's really.
I'm not
sad.
even a pastor's kid, but I nearly cried.
Or a pastor as well. That's really sad because that means that when they go home, they're not showing their family what they're showing the world. And that's not cool.
Yeah.
That's bad naming stuff, isn't it? Didn't see that coming. Should have, I guess. Makes sense.
It didn't make sense to me either.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering what's going on in the military side of that. Is it that externally there's a lot of strength, and and you're maybe like perfect?
Well, for me, it's different in the sense that I think military kids join the military rather than pastors' kids rejecting being a Christian or a pastor. There might be an expectation on the family name as well, because if you're a military family, then continuing that lineage is important. Or it's just natural. It's strange because being raised that way, I mean, I appreciate a lot of the things I got from it, but one of the first things that I was thinking was I want a family. and military life is not good for families. In my upbringing, and that's how I equated everything. Was this is bad because we're military, not because there's alcoholism. At first, because I didn't notice it at first. That was what it was. I thought every family was this way. Mm-hmm. So it was very confusing. When I said to my friends in school one time, we're in science class and the desk was covered. It was a mess. And I just said to my buddies, wouldn't you love to just put one hand here like an arm and just sweep all this on the floor and go, clean this shit up? Well, your dad does, you know? And they looked at me and went, and looked at each other. And I went, my dad's never done that. And that was the first time I'd ever gone, oh, so maybe everyone's not got the same kind of dad. I did not know that. I may have been 12.
Sure.
12, maybe first or second form.
Yeah.
12 or 13 when that happened. So, yeah. What was my point on that?
But I noticed that when I got married, how different the family cultures were.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think from the trivial down to like how you hang washing to how you cook something, all the way up to the non-trivial. Like how you fight and how you confront each other and
absolutely
how you give feedback.
But I think everybody in marriage goes through that of like, you know, this is not how my parents did this, and this is hard now.
But it's normal to you. You know, you just think that this is the way everyone does things, but it's not.
Yeah. There's some basic things like tea towel usage, honey. I have this whole thing with like hand towels and tea towels. Right? One's thin and one's thick and furry, right?
Yeah, of course.
So one's for your hands and one's for drying dishes.
Oh, you're one of those guys.
I'm one of those guys. I'm one of those guys. Yeah. But you don't let it get in the way.
No, we love you anyway, you know.
That's it.
Tell me about the transition between, if we kind of describe the teenage years as the cowboy years, the transition between that into, here's a better question. When was the first time you felt like a man? And I'm not talking like,
no.
I'm 16, I just did a thing. Da-da-da-da-da. I'm talking like a sobering, like, whoa, I've leveled up here.
The level up is the phrase I would use. Absolutely. For me, it's like a computer game borrowing thing of when you level up and you have access to skills and weapons that you didn't have before.
Oh, woo!
Make sense?
Yes.
That's why I call it leveling up, because there are things that only happen and perspectives you can only have after you've leveled up. So one of the first ones for me, I remember it happening in a moment, and they happen in moments, like immediately, not over time periods, just like in a game, level 7, you know, and it flashes on the screen, and you can unlock that new wrist belt. Wrist belt? That's a word. Wrist blade. And it was, my brother was getting married. We're down in Cork, and we're at the pre-wedding, practice wedding session. And he's standing in front of me, and everyone's wearing their civvies, you know, no one's dressed up yet, and they're just going through what the ceremony's going to be. I'm just sitting in the second row, and I suddenly go, he's getting married. And I turned to my mom, who's already in tears anyway, and I said, he's getting married. And she was, there it is. Sai finally gets it, you know, yay, he's on board. And I remember just thinking, wow, this shit is serious. Mm-hmm. As in, life is serious. There are things that are important now, and I didn't twig. I didn't twig. So I leveled up in that tiny little moment. I didn't know what it was, but I remember that when looking back, when I had other level ups, that's what the first one was. Second one was when I became an uncle, and I held Toby, my nephew, for the first time.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, this shit is serious. Now I have a responsibility. The first time it was like responsibility for you need to kind of grow up.
Yeah.
The second one was responsibility. You have a nephew, so you need to wise up, you know. Then, of course, getting married was another big one. But the biggest was becoming a dad. My son, that was the first. Like, there was just so many things in my life that no longer mattered, that were not important. Things I worried about, things I stressed about and was anxious about, that just did not matter anymore. And there were way more important things to concern yourself with, you know. I don't know how true this is. I may have paraphrased my wife, but there's meant to be a part of the brain that physically alters, physically grows whenever you become a dad.
What?
or a parent, sorry, when you become a mum or a dad. And it's it's a part of the actual brain that actually enlarges slightly, and that she will correct me, and I'm sure other psychologists around the world will go, what the hell is he talking about? I may have paraphrased her, but I think that's what it is, and it's in the fear center of the brain.
Whoa.
Yeah. And it might be a whole, if you want to talk about like survival instincts and all that kind of stuff, like, you know, where's my child? is it nearby me kind of a thing? It might be as basic as that, but I think that can get fed upon as well easily by other anxieties. So you start thinking immediately about, you know, if you have a daughter, for goodness sake, great story in there as well about having a daughter, but I'll get to that. But if you have a child, you start worrying about, you know, their future way too soon. So first child gets a whole lot of anxiety put on them. They say that first children are more cautious than the next children.
Yeah.
And that's probably because we did that to them.
Yeah.
You know, don't move, where are you going? You know, oh no, they're crawling, they're moving.
I love seeing families who have like lots of kids, 7 kids.
Yeah.
And you know, like the youngest is kind of just like hanging out the back of the boot in the car. Meanwhile, I'm over here like you know, triple seat belting like my newborn into the thing and like driving carefully over like speed bumps. I remember the first time I went for a walk with my daughter in the pram.
Yeah.
Like honestly, I was like tilting the pram up every single curb. I was like going really slowly. I was elevating it to make sure that her head wasn't falling back too much. And then her granny came over, and her granny was like, "Do you want to go for a walk?" I said, "Absolutely." And she was like, I was like, "That's my daughter."
Like a wheelbarrow bouncing it around. Yeah, that's so true, and everybody does it. I think the first kid just gets so much more put on them, and like. Because there was like the stupid cliche. There was no manual. There was nothing. We didn't know what to do. Mm-hmm. We knew the basics of how to stick food in that end and take care of what comes out the other. But I mean,
I still googled like the second part of that. I was like, how do you change a nappy again?
I think they showed me in the hospital. Did they? I don't remember.
We were a COVID baby, so we just
flip. Yeah,
we were just like, have fun, kid. Good luck.
Yeah, we got this. You got this, kid. You got this. You're fine. You have a boy, yeah?
I have a little girl.
Oh, you have a girl?
2 years old. So
you started with a girl.
Let me fast track where we're going to go.
Okay.
Why is it that whenever you have a son, you become a father, and when you have a daughter,
right,
you become a man?
So this is a buddy of mine in the States called Ricky, who I stayed with for a couple of days because we were looking at human trafficking. And doing a documentary on human trafficking. And Ricky was talking to me about, you know, being a dad. And I think I said to him, I never want a daughter. Because I was studying human trafficking, for goodness sake. You know what I mean? And I was seeing what men were like in the basest level and just thinking, how the hell do you raise a daughter in that world? Mm-hmm. And Ricky said to me, when you have a son, you become a dad. And when you have a daughter, you become a man. And I heard the challenge in his statement, and I said, I have to do this, because I have to complete the game of life. This game that we're playing, and I think things like going to university and getting married and all those things, I think they kind of they change me into better versions of me every single time. I remember writing on Facebook something like, becoming a parent can make you the best version of yourself if you let it. It can also make you into a complete monster if you don't. But rising up to the challenge of trying to become a good parent and working hard at it, I think will make you the best version of yourself.
I agree with that. I think it's like marriage on steroids. It's character formation of the highest level.
Yes.
Because every other piece of my life, like I can come in here and I can put on a show and I can be professional and I can be innovative and creative. Yeah. And then I can go home and be a monster.
Yeah.
And I
can't make a pastor's kid.
Yeah. I can't box my family like that.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Like they see me and I see them at the worst.
Yeah.
And in the tiredness and in the late nights and somebody's sick and this has happened. And it's the relentlessness of that.
That's it.
I think is the hard bit, but also the gold.
That it's in that space. It's in that space that it happens when you are like it's like SAS deprivation training. We need to see you at the very, very worst, how you will handle things. So we're going to bring you to the very end of yourself and then go, and here's one more. Did you go over the edge or did you stick with the plan? And that's what I think parenting is. And I think marriage is absolutely like that. And parenting is all of that minus sleep. You know, when you cannot physically find time for yourself to take care of yourself half the time, you know. And you can squeeze that in at a cost of your family, or you can push harder. And I know I've definitely squeezed in plenty of moments where I just go, I have to leave.
Sure.
I have to go outside that door now.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, people may die. I don't want you guys to see this. So it's being asked to be on form all the time.
Yeah.
You know.
Just a quick point on going outside. You know, you mentioned earlier there's times where you're around trees and it made you feel very safe. You know, nature is a very grounding force.
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought this was really interesting. Like now that there's young kids in my life, whether it's my daughter or other people's kids, or even like, you know, crash, like, you know, volunteering on crash in church or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And when you take kids outside, it changes them. Something changes. And that's all I wanted to say. I just was an observation because I think it's really interesting.
Well, was it John Hodges was talking about that when he was talking about we were actually born, we were made to be outdoors. Like we were created. If you want to talk about the origin story of Adam and Eve, we weren't born in a house. We were born out. We were created outside. We lived outside. We didn't go indoors. So they talk a lot about taking your shoes off when you're outside for grounding and things like that. I think I know for me, when I walk outside the front door, there is a shift in me immediately. There is like even times when I have been like just triggered heavily and I'm like, I need to get outside before I scream and shout and swear. As soon as I open the back door and I feel it close behind me, I feel like a reset button is hit. So I don't need this long walk that I thought I needed. I just go, oh, I've already come down. Now I've cultivated, my back door is a massive presence of, you know, exchange happens there.
Yeah.
So it might just be that's all I needed that time was to step out there. But definitely I think with kids, like John was even saying, like telling kids to take off their shoes outside, they do it naturally. They want to run around barefoot. So I think we need to learn from that and do something similar. We need to actually get outside more, get a deep breath. But anytime you feel like, I was talking to a buddy last night, Gav, who was even saying, I just need to get out to the mountains. I just need to get outside. And I don't mean go to a park in the middle of inner city Belfast or a football field. I need to get, and my expression of a friend called Ross, we talk about this all the time, of I need to get lost. I need to be lost.
Yeah.
We started looking in Northern Ireland for places to get lost, and it was impossible to go to the wild of Northern Ireland or Southern or Ireland, you know, the whole thing, because within 15 minutes there's a farm or there's a road. So I remember going to Canada. I think the answer was I need to go to Wales or Scotland to get a bigger sense of that and be really lost. I went to Canada to see my grunkle at the time, my great uncle, and he lived up in, what's it called, Blue Mountains, 7 hours north of Toronto. And here's me thinking I'm driving into the wilderness. And then you look at the map, you've done this, and Canada is way bigger, you know, and that's all you've done in 7 hours. But I remember going to his back garden, and his back garden had trees. His house is surrounded by tall ash trees. Or beech trees. I can't remember which one it was, the white ones. And there were deer would come to the back door.
Yo.
I remember just going, can I just go for a walk in that direction? And within about a few minutes, I felt lost, properly lost. Now I have a good sense of direction, I know how to get home.
Yeah,
but
of course.
I felt I'm alone.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but I've got to be in that space to find out maybe who I am or recenter or whatever it is. I want to get lost. And I think if you're like that, I was going to say men in general, but if you're like that, then you need to find that space in your life to reground who you are and why you're doing all this.
Yeah.
So when you go back to your work and back to your family, you've centered all that and you know what's important. You've remembered the level you're on, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Love that. Glad we did that bit.
Yeah, it was good.
I want to go back to the daughter-son thing.
Yeah.
Why?
There's more there.
Why did your friend Ricky?
Ricky, yeah.
And I totally get it with human trafficking and pornography and all this sort of stuff. But why do you think having a daughter is different than having a son? What did having a daughter, because you had a son first, right?
Yeah, thankfully.
What did
Training ground.
having a daughter second do to you? Like, if we use your like analogy of the video game, what extra bits of gear, what areas of strength kind of grew from having a daughter? It
calls out of you what a real man's meant to be, because you have to teach this girl what she should be looking for. That's it, right? Your eyes just went wild. I think that's it. So it therefore calls the best of you to come to the fore.
Wow.
Because she is watching this. She's going to base every relationship and every decision with men based on your performance right now. I think that's it.
I think that's it.
I got chills, so I think that feels right to me. Yeah. Because I remember watching, I shouldn't mention him by name, but watching this very famous motivational speaker who's very rich. Not mention his name. Somebody stood up in his audience one time and just explained their story, and he said, "What was your dad like?" And she said, "Oh, my dad was the best. My dad was loving. He was there for me. He was kind. He just showed me what men were like, you know." And this sensationalist kind of guy just went, "What a mother!" And just everyone was, "Woo!" What an audacious thing to say about it. You know, what everyone would suspect would be, you know, "Oh, lovely." But he went the other way, and he said, "This guy ruined you for life. He set the bar way too high. You would never find a man like that." And I thought, "You scumbag." That's exactly what a dad is meant to do. He is meant to set the bar extremely high so that no girl, no woman ever settles for less than being treated like the queen she should be. Than being treated like she is sought after, precious, valuable to be around, and worth chasing, worth saving. Imagine a woman who feels that way.
Just really interesting. You put words to something that I've felt and experienced that I haven't been able to articulate before. And it was meeting and being in a relationship with my now wife's father. And I felt, and I still feel when I spend time with him, it feels like this. And you know what that is? That's me rising up to his standard.
Rising his standard.
Because I know that he is an honorable man, and he is a fighter, and he's done some incredible things. And that's what I felt. Like, the first time I went to Germany, I felt like a little boy. Like, I felt like I was about 6 years old.
Why?
Because,
in what way?
Because of how manly this guy was.
Right.
And it's not like he's super muscly, or it's not like he can build a house made out of, trees he finds in the forest. Yeah. But there's just, he is that rock to his family. And when I spent time with him, I felt like I was being pulled up by him. Yeah. And that's really cool.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah. That's the thing, is it's realizing that when you're now a leader, you're no longer this follower, you're no longer this little boy. When you've got kids, I have to lead these practice humans, these L-plate people.
There's a big transition that I feel like I maybe have only experienced in recent years, which is fine because I'm young. And that is, whenever you're a teenager, well, when I was a teenager, I was super critical of everything and everyone who was further along than me. So my teachers were useless, my leaders were useless, the way people did things was wrong, and if I was in charge, I would do everything so much differently.
Wow.
That was kind of like a big bit of baggage that I carried around. And there has been multiple sobering moments in recent years.
Right.
Where all of a sudden, you're that guy. Now it's your turn. What are you going to do?
And were these people that you were criticizing, were they doing a good job or not doing a good job?
A mixture of both. Okay. So, some of it's valid, some of it's not.
Well, were you criticizing failure moments that they'd had?
Yes, but I also was just I wasn't overly critical, but I definitely had a sense that like these people are not, they're failing.
Yeah.
They're not rising up to what they could be and should be. And I've been smacked in the face in recent years.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, big boy, your turn.
You're
now that person.
Yes.
Like you're now the youth leader.
Yeah.
Who's stewarding 16-year-olds in your community.
Yeah.
Like you're now the guy who is in business. You're now the dad. You're now the husband. It's like it's your turn to
What
show
decisions
us.
are you going to make that better? Yeah.
And I think that has been really profound and very scary and very exciting.
Yeah.
Because you can rise up to it.
In that order.
Yeah. But you also cannot rise up to it.
Yeah, you can miss it. You can totally, you can miss it entirely. Like I said, it can make, being a dad can make you the best version of yourself or not. It's your call. You can decide to face it and fight it and go along with it.
Yeah.
Or you can just, it's like if you have trauma, if you have any problems, any hang-ups, any buttons, things like that, you can completely allow them to stay. Or you can go, I see the bigger picture here of what happens if I stay a mess. Because I mean, my dad, he was messed up as a kid, and this has brought me a lot of healing as to why he reacted in certain ways and things that he just, like even recently. So we have a really good relationship now, which is a freaking miracle from God. It has to be that he is able to be this person now, and actually a dad to me. He had no idea. Because he wasn't surrounded by psychologists every day on the internet on his phone telling him you need healing. He did. I married a trauma specialist, for goodness sake. So it's talk about your serendipitous blessing, destiny, whatever you want. So he even recently just saying to him, Dad, do you realize that when that happens, that's a huge attachment issue right there.
Yeah.
Like that's you not firmly attached to your parents, to your mom. Do you realize what that does to a kid? So he is feeling this, like I'm giving him grace, and he is feeling the mercy he's feeling, but also the recognition of I'm not this evil bastard.
Yeah.
Because this is the most annoying thing about my dad that I knew growing up. I watched him with other kids, and he would just seem like the most amazing dad with other people. And I remember being really angry going, that's not what he's like with me.
Yeah, of course.
But what really annoyed me the most was the fact that my dad had a good heart in there. And I knew he did. I don't know if everyone would agree with that, but I could see a good heart in him. And I have a gift for that, seeing potential in people and seeing what they could become, and looking past raw to, and maybe growing up with him taught me that, of just being able to look past the raw and see the real person inside and what fences they're putting up, what facade. And I just remember looking at him and going, you have actually a really good heart in there. It's just smothered in years of shit. Yeah. What you've been dealt, but also not to excuse your behavior. You need to deal with that. Yeah. And God bless him, since he has spotted and had access to these things, he has made real changes. He lives in Thailand, so it's harder. It's a lot easier to have relationships at distance like that. I would love him to see him again, but there were times where I just never wanted to mention his name.
I think one of the things that is enabled or helped me along in that transition I was just talking about a few minutes ago is that empathy, where you realize that person you were so critical of, this is why.
And also, if I'm not careful, I'm on track
to
the same thing, because I'm saying the same stuff that he said, like, I hate you, I'm never going to be like you. And I'm kind of going, I see a repetition happening here. Maybe I better change my thinking and my path here. So
trauma casts a really long shadow in your life. Decades long.
Yeah, that's a good phrase.
And I think it's interesting. I don't know who it was. Was it Young maybe or something? It says something like, the best place to keep your shadow is right in front of you.
Very good. Very good.
I love that. Talk to me about, you said you have a gift for seeing behind people's facade and seeing a good heart where maybe other people don't, right? Talk to me about a big scary guy wearing a big scary mask.
And airsofting?
Airsofting.
This came under the sense that I'd learned that I was an atmosphere changer, and I didn't know what that phrase meant. I can't remember if somebody spoke it over me or it popped into my head. One or the other. Maybe both, maybe all three. But I could change atmospheres, and I didn't know what that meant. So I remember going airsofting for the first time. I went by myself. I felt like it was something I needed to move into. And I remember we'd all done the sign-in thing, and then you go and stand in the field and wait for the ref to come out and spit you into teams and send you off. And I'm standing out there, and everybody's just got this huge F off kind of look on their faces, you know. Like,
look how big my gun is.
I am now 10 feet taller with this gun. And they're wearing, you know, face protection. So some will have like just goggles on, grills. But one guy had this big scary mask on, like a Halloween kind of mask. And I remember walking out there and kind of going, ugh, this tension. I can't stand this tension. I hate this tension. Everyone's got F off written on their foreheads because everybody's actually scared.
Yeah.
You gonna say something?
No.
You let your buddy go. Yes, everyone's
just
actually just smiling. Everyone is actually feeling the same way I am. I'm assuming so. That we all feel like, oh, this is horrible. Just don't make eye contact, you know? And that's Northern Irish as well. I'm not that kind of guy because I wasn't born here and raised
in the world, but not of it.
In the world, not of it. Sure, we'll take that. And I just felt, right, I could just join in with this, and we could all stand here in silence, all 50 of us, and until the whistle goes. And actually, I wonder how the game's going to go after that. Is there going to be tension and fighting and kind of grumpiness, or I could try and talk to somebody. So I thought, and I hate this. I hate it. I think I'm introverted. I think I'm introverted. I love people, but I'd rather be invisible and just kind of people watch and listen to conversation. So yeah, I walked up to this guy who he just stuck out because he was really tall and he had a really cool gun and a face mask. I'm new to all this. So I walk up to him and go, dude, that mask is terrifying. And he looked at me like, what?
No, you're terrifying.
No,
don't talk to me.
Don't talk to me. Because I'm thinking you probably want it to be terrifying to keep people away from you possibly as well. But and to make you feel like, you know, I'm a big man too. So I walked up and just said, that mask is terrifying, dude. Where'd you get it? And he said, well, I made it myself. So you made that yourself? So I just opened into this huge, like, dude, how? What inspired you? Where'd you get the idea? How did you, like, what materials, all that kind of stuff. And within about a minute, he pulled it off his face to talk properly to me. And I just went, whoa, there's a human. Less scary and interesting. And he was just like really happy to talk about it. I said, so what's this gun you've got? I've never seen this one before. I didn't know what the gun was, and how do I get one of those? And he goes, oh, this is here. I've modded it with this. I've put these internals in, and I've done this silencer on the end and all that kind of stuff. And I just started to notice, because we were in a loose gathering, I just started to notice people starting to drift a little bit closer and closer and closer and closer. And I'm like, oh, something's happening here. And then when he finished talking, this other kid chimed in, oh, I've got this gun, and I like this, and I did this too. And then they're getting close, and everyone's gathering around, and I'm like, it popped straight in my head right afterwards, atmosphere changer. And I'm like, oh, that's the thing with it. Okay, so that costs me a lot, but I can do that. That costs me, because I know I've been airsofting times and gone, I'm not doing it today. I'm going to join the tension. Sure. I'd be part of the problem. Yep. But the game, I think, afterwards was a lot more, from other games I've played since, it was very respectful. Like when you hit somebody and you hit them hard in the face, there's oh, nice shot, buddy. Instead of like, right, that guy in that hat,
I'm going to kill you.
I'm going to respawn and get you later, you know? So I definitely feel that's something that people like who have that gift are called to do that. I know that I can talk to strangers. I love talking to strangers. Yeah. I was in a masterclass recently with Declan Lawn and Adam Patterson for directing and screenwriting. The same thing happened. You're in the Strand Cinema and no one's talking. Everyone's sitting there, and there's maybe 100 of us. I went, ugh, and I just turned around. Hey, what's your name? And the guy was like, what? You know, and we got talking about his career and wants to be a writer and all this stuff. And it was great. I'm thinking, wow, that could have been a missed opportunity to get to know somebody and for him to be known. And this is the thing. This is the key. I think people want to be known. They may not want to talk. They may not want to introduce themselves, but I think they want to be known and celebrated. I think they want people to look at them and go, I like what you've done there. I like this. They want this relationship to be drawn into. Not like, you know, everyone wants to be friends. Everybody wants to be known. And I think, therefore, that's the gift I have, is that I want to know them and I want them to feel known. I want them to be celebrated. I want them to, my name is Timmy and I love this.
Yeah.
and I'm good at this. And someone tell me I'm good at this, please. And at the same time, someone tell me where I need to improve. And that's the accountability structure of the friendship groups, you know, the communities where we, like men's groups, where we do get in to get close to each other and actually say, you know what, buddy, you're becoming a dad next year, right? Can we talk about some of these things in your life? Because you've asked me before if to point out things to you, and so I want to point this out to you. I think you might struggle to continue this kind of behavior when you're a dad, or you know, anything like that.
Yeah,
I think that's why they're so important. And men need to have these tribes. We need to be in packs. It's like that stupid phrase, the lone wolf, makes no sense to me, because a wolf is a pack animal. It's built to be in a pack, right? Yeah. And I know sometimes a wolf gets kicked out and has to find, but I think it finds another pack. It makes another pack. We are pack animals. We're designed to be together. Did I ramble for long enough? I'm trying to think.
It was perfect.
Clip
that. That's good. That's good.
Cut all that.
But I love the story about the paintball, because it shows me
airsoft. Excuse me.
I beg your pardon.
I'm just hearing all my airsoft buddies
Oh
going,
no!
He said paintball.
Get that guy.
You didn't correct him.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
I love the airsoft story.
Yeah.
Because it shows me that, you know, behind the kind of the bravado and the macho is like, it's just boyish hearts. Yeah. Who want to show you how cool their gun is.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I love that big scary guy, because, like, you know, that guy made his own mask.
Yeah.
Like, you know, stereotypically in the culture, taking a wide view, that's not a very hyper masculine thing to do today.
Right.
Now, back in the day, if you were like in the tribe and you were making war masks,
it's survival.
Yes, yeah, extremely macho. Yeah. But now, you know,
this is cosplay kind of.
You could turn around and you could be like, oh, look at you and your wee paint set, like, you know what I mean? But it shows me how there is that other side of masculinity as well. There is a softness, there is a vulnerability, and I love that phrase you used. There is a desire to be known. Yeah. And I love how all the boys start coming together where it's like, look at me.
That's it.
Look at me.
It's
next,
like me next.
It's like that desire for a father to look at you as well. Do you know what I mean? It's like, tell me how cool I am. Like, I want to show you my thing. And you see this in little boys, but I think there's a part of, I also think that's why men gravitate towards things like airsoft and things like sport, because it gives them an arena to show off how big and strong they are and their dominance, and for other men to be impressed by that, you know.
Absolutely.
Without sharing your feelings and
what's that?
And all that sort of
edification, peer edification. I don't think of a phrase there, but yeah, when we validate, peer validation, where we look at each other and say, "Yeah, you're worthy."
Yeah.
Because maybe our dads didn't say enough.
Yeah.
You know, and we're finding it wherever we can.
Yeah. The paintball story, I used it this morning. So on the bus.
Right.
So I too, I'm an introvert. I too like talking to people.
Right.
Where's the camera so I can spike it? Surprise, surprise. Because I make a podcast.
Yeah.
I love talking to strangers.
Right.
And different points in my career, I would spend a lot of time talking to strangers, whether it was drug addicts or homeless or whatever.
Yeah.
And I've kind of got a bit lazy recently.
Right.
Where I just, you know, I finish work or I'm with my family and I'm just kind of like, I'll just take it easy. Mm-hmm. And the bus was very full this morning, and I sat beside a guy, and he was a scary guy. Right. He looked really scary. And as soon as I saw him, I remembered the paintball story. Yeah. And so I intentionally sat beside him. Someone was going to have to eventually. And I just said something like, I took my coat off, and I was like, how's it going, mate? Like, how's your morning going? I can't even remember what it was. And we talked for about 40 minutes.
Awesome.
And
love it.
I don't want to share too much, but I feel emotional now. Ooh. At various points in the conversation, rolled up his sleeve, showed me all the scars.
Wow.
Told me about his suicide attempts.
Wow.
Told me about being an alcoholic.
Come on, man, that's awesome.
I'm a suicide survivor as well, so you know we talked a lot about that, and you know he had a really rough 9 years. I think he tried to kill himself 10 times.
Jeepers.
And he's come out of that now, and he's got a job, and he's got a family, and he's working through it, and he's doing his thing. And I asked him what changed.
Yeah.
And he told me one of his friends killed himself. And that's what did it for him. Was for him to see the impact and the result of the thing that he so desperately longed for showed him that he didn't want it.
Wow.
And that conversation will stay with me. and I think it'll stay with him too. And I was like, this is what you and I are looking to do with this series.
Yeah.
Like, you have some very scary men lined up for us to speak with. You have men who, on paper, are tough guys, and maybe not everyone would want to approach them. Now, so tell me, what are we going to do, and why are we going to do it?
So, what we've been talking about all morning explains why. I think people can get a gist of why we should be doing this. One of the main feelings for me was maybe a decade ago. I was watching like this World War II documentary on YouTube, and like I just love history. Whoever was going to guess that from my scores from school that I loved history. And somebody commented. I was reading some of the comments, which I sometimes do, not really often. Somebody commented, do you know, someday this caliber of human being, they used the word caliber, and the sentence was something like, this caliber of human being doesn't exist anymore, that kind of thing. And it was people, survivors of the war, so people talking about just what they believed in, and like simple things like holding a door open for somebody, and little simple things all the way to the big things of how to really, really be courageous in life as well as in moments. And I just remember we had a conversation in these comments back and forth, me and a few people, and I just thought, we need to save this. We need to capture. We're going to have a day someday soon where all those people will be gone, or people who survived. I think the last, there was something celebrated in the RAF 100-year thing, I think possibly, of the last pilots and the last people, the last fella, Spitfire flyer, something like that. I remember it recently. And we are going to lose this wisdom, this caliber of human being. So I remember thinking, how do we save this? I thought, well, I'm a filmmaker. Why don't I capture some videos? When I film some people, when I interview some people, no idea that you were, well, actually, this is way before that. It would have been before that. You've been doing this 3 years, 2 years?
I've been doing this for 5 years, maybe 6.
5 or 6 years.
A bit sketchy.
Yeah.
Depends if you count like Instagram stories, is it?
Well, yeah, you were investing in this, which became Best of Belfast. Absolutely, so you've been doing it for that long, I think. So that inspiration came from me then, and then I remember about the same time, 5-6 years ago, I saw for the first time Seinfeld on Netflix doing comedians in cars getting coffee, and I was so taken by the humanity in these celebrities, of the things that they worry about, the things that they think about. A lot of it was inaccessible because, do you know when you're driving down Hollywood Boulevard in your Bentley and, I'm thinking, that's not accessible for half the population. And I just kind of
fantasy world to enter into, though.
It is. It was nice to go, what are these people like behind the cameras? But I kind of thought, you know what, everybody's got a story, right? Everybody on the planet has a story. So what makes their story less valuable than these celebrities? And I thought, well, I wonder, can I get coffee houses involved to kind of go and meet people? And I tried designing this portable kit that's always in my bag of 2 cameras and a mic. And I experimented for a long time, and the audio was always a problem. I just thought, this isn't going to work. And then I started converting my garage into a studio because I kept meeting these people who had such wisdom that I wanted to capture. And not, I remember with the BBC, they had this archiving thing. I got asked to come in and help another guy talk, a friend of mine called Neil Powell, who's hopefully coming on the show. And it was we want to, the producer was telling me something like, we want to capture these stories of what people talked like and sounded like, and they're a little bit of who they were in the culture and environment at the time for future people to find. So, you're digging through the rubble and you find a recording kind of thing. Oh, look, there's somebody from 2004 talking. I kind of felt like, no, people need to hear this today. People need to be able to find this again. Where was that guy who said that thing? I want to hear that again. To have these little moments that could help them level up, So I thought, well, why don't we try doing the videos and putting it on YouTube? And I have no idea how you get a following and all that kind of stuff. And so it just became this thing that I'm talking about lots and not doing. Enter Matthew. And I'm like, here's how this could work. Okay, let's talk about getting the guys on this show.
Yeah.
And doing a segment which we're going to name something like Wild Wisdom or something like that.
It's wild, dude. It's Wild Wisdom.
Is it Wild Wisdom? We're sticking with that.
You
Great.
said wisdom so many times there. I was like, that was my confirmation. I was like, because it's been like wild this, wild that. It's Wild Wisdom.
Wild Wisdom.
Yeah, man.
And I think it's for me the focus for now, because I wondered why I'm not focusing on women and why I'm not focusing on young men. So why am I not drawn to their stories right now? And it could be for the future, but right now it's older men. I want to hear their experiences, what they think towards the later years of their life, what they've learned, where the wisdom has come from and their conclusions to things. And then maybe a lot of bigotry and racism comes out. It would be awful. But at the same time, there's still something almost beautiful about, oh, bless you. You're not really changing much. And that's, that's you.
Honesty is interesting.
Honesty, yeah.
And capturing people the way they are is always something that I've been very, very interested in.
Yeah.
And I think, we've talked a lot about different stages of kind of like the masculine journey. And the guys you're talking about and that you're bringing in are sages.
Use the word sages, yeah.
They're people
That's
who
interesting.
are at the end of their life and can look back on their life with a perspective you and I can't yet access.
Absolutely.
And I'm really interested to tap into that.
Yeah. And there is a question of, if we're taught it, can we learn it? Because I think wisdom is something that's very different to smarts, intelligence, street smart. It's very different. Wisdom is something I think is like a revelatory.
I think you have to experience wisdom, but you can obtain knowledge without experience.
Yeah, you can get smarts. Can you get smarts, or are you just smart? It's dumb question. No, I think wisdom is revelatory. It happens after experience. It happens after moments you gain it. But I think you can not gain it too. You can not learn from things.
Yeah, it's true.
So I'm hoping that my fear was that future generations would not have the wisdom of that caliber of people to access, and what would happen to the state of our world as time. There's a great movie called it's gone from my brain. It's called I'll have to look it up. Subtitle to come up. It's about a guy. They find the most average man and the most average woman, and they put him into a sleep stasis pod. To I don't know for how long they were intending, but it goes too far. 500 years in the future, something like that. And they wake up and they're now the smartest people on the planet. And it's hilarious. It's just like, they're wondering why they have no crops because they're trying to water their fields with Gatorade. And little things like that. So he realizes I'm actually quite useful here. And that always kind of makes me think, what's going to happen in the future if we lose too much wisdom from that time period? Because the war was a huge learning curve for everybody on what's really, even just taking the pandemic, and someone has used the phrase global trauma, which I think is very apt, right? Yeah. Even just using that 2-year kind of traumatic moment for the entire planet. There's a lot we've shifted in with relationships, how we do relationships, and so many people who have not come back outside again. I meet friends now and again I haven't seen in a long time, and I say, I'm sorry, I haven't seen you in ages. And they go, don't worry, we've seen nobody. And you're kind of thinking, wow, there are people who are still hermitized. They're still hermitized, who are still staying indoors in a culture that is very, I don't really want to share who I am right now. That's dangerous, right? Yeah. Because we're not naturally outgoing people. Yeah. So I think there's a real rescuing has to happen of reaching in and pulling people out. And that's what I definitely feel like I've started doing in the past few months is calling guys I haven't seen in months and going, how are you doing? Crap, right, let's get a coffee. Let's go and they're reporting back with, wow, I feel like things are breaking off me. I feel like mud that was caked onto me is starting to fall away. And I'm like, we need this, guys. Go and do it to other guys too, go and spread that. And that was only like a 2-year, like there was, I mean, the World War flipping 2 was, I can't imagine what the heck that did to your daily routine of just, there's the street I walk down every day and play football. Oh, now there's a tank in it, and all the buildings are gone. We can't fathom that, but these people can. And that's why I want to hear them talk.
Love it, man. And like my side of the story is You know, I'm a podcaster with 300 audio episodes, and I was looking to get into video. And then we sat beside each other at a breakfast.
Yeah.
All about men.
All about men. With John Eldridge.
With John Eldridge, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, like,
just lined up.
it's awesome. It's working. So, yeah, Wild Wisdom, that's what we're calling it.
Wild Wisdom.
And we're going to roll it out. It's going to be Fancy Pants video podcast series. If you're watching today, you'll see that Sai has turned our humble audio studio into an absolute wizardry place. Look at all these switches. Dun, 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 dun. I actually really eased into the switching.
Right.
Like about
feeling it?
half an hour into the conversation, I'm like, yeah, I can totally do both
get
at
it.
the same time.
I told you.
Yeah.
I didn't believe myself when I said that, but I told you get it. So I'm glad to be convinced.
Oh man,
no, you did a great job.
So good, and I really enjoyed all the things that you shared today. It was really cool to dig into some of that.
It's good to kind of have somebody ask you really pertinent questions like that to remind you of things as well.
Yeah,
because I remembered stuff that I forgot, and you can be on 100 miles an hour on your course going, I know I'm meant to go this direction, but you kind of forgotten why sometimes.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've been reminded of some of my earlier revelations and why they were there, and it's given me that passion again of, yeah, I've got to do this. So thank you for that.
Cool. Trying to think of a plane landing question to wrap it all up. I've got two. We'll maybe do both. What's the kindest thing someone's ever done for you?
Oh, come on. My memory is the worst. The kindest thing that anyone has ever done. I'll have to come back to that because I know there are millions of things that people have done. Like things like just even somebody spotting me and saying, like an older brother or a father figure spotting me and just going, hey, we should get a coffee. See, stuff like that. Let's just all the way down to someone just paying for my meal. I remember one time where I took hopefully is going to be a guest on this show, a mate of mine. I took him and his wife out for lunch, and this friend of ours, I wonder should I name him? He paid for our meal. He was in the restaurant too, and he just paid for the meal. And I know, for me, I expect that of Christians. I expect that those events to happen, that, you know, there will be moments in life where you just can't explain stuff and you just got to accept it, right? And but what it did for him was huge. He was talking about it for a long time. He still would bring it up. You know, why did he do that? You know, it's called kindness of strangers. You know, it's a good thing. Do you remember? Is it Foy Vance has a song? Not Random Act of Kindness.
He does.
Consider this.
Yeah, he does have that.
Yeah, that song, fab. And then it's a guy who had a company called ARC, and it's Random Acts of Kindness. Should have been Rack, but ARC. So I think, yeah, those things. But for me, the kindest thing would have been the father figures who have rescued me, seen somebody on the path of destruction, a young fella going the wrong way, and grabbing me and going, hey, let's get a coffee. I didn't know what that meant at the time. Let's transform you.
Yeah, it's like it's code name for something's about to happen.
Something significant is going to happen. I may not know what it is, but we've got to do this. And absolutely. And I hate coffee.
Do you know how I know that this is meant to be? My final question was, tell me about a time an older man has intervened.
There you go.
And so there it is. So
There you go.
I feel like I need to hit the wide angle. Boom.
Boom.
Give you one of these.
I thought you were going to drop a mic. Yeah. Awesome. I spent from the age of 20 to the age of 30 with older men being really kind to me. I remember saying to my pastor something like, I used to be a nice guy when I was a kid. I used to be a good guy and do good things. And he's long gone and I want to find him again. And it just turned into this, oh, here, meet this guy. Here, oh yeah, meet this guy. And I was like, hey, we should get a coffee. So it was 10 years of just being guts on the table, resorted and put back in again. And it was painful. And I probably wasn't the nicest person to be around when that was happening. But at the age of 30, I felt like I'd finally come back on track to who maybe I was meant to be originally.
Yeah. And
was now doing this for other people. I no longer needed the please, can I get some of her coffee? It turned into just, I need to, hey, kid, let's get a coffee, me and you, and just trying to redo what they did for me. And I wouldn't be here today without that. Absolutely. So let's pay these guys a good respect back and get their stories.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Thank you, brother.